Do you remember meeting this, you know, Jeffrey or Ghislaine?
No, I never met them, but they're also very much like this sort of Upper East Side crowd. I did meet Harvey Weinstein once that made me have all kinds of interesting thoughts later.
At the restaurant or elsewhere?
No, it was weird. It was out on the street, and we had this really strange interaction. And knowing what I know now, it was eerie. And also, like, had he contacted me after that and made it seem like he could have done something for me, like, would I have been, say he said, "Oh, I'm going to finance your whole expansion or something,"
Yeah.
and like, come meet me at this hotel. And then I go to that hotel and then he's like, come up to the room. And then I would have been like,
And you were
you know,
wondering whether you would have done it.
yes. And sadly, I think I would have. And so I felt a lot of compassion for um, those who, didn't yell at him and leave or didn't storm out. And because I think what happens in those situations is, there's all kinds of uncertainty in the moment and you sort of freeze. And then if I'm probably one of those people that would sit there and somehow in the moment without clarity just instinctively feel like somehow I must have done something wrong and it's my fault and like I led him on and or just being afraid and then you don't know how to deal with it and so you freeze. So I think that if you're somebody that maybe was raised differently or you have a lot of self-confidence or you might have reacted differently and kind of pushed him away and stormed out. But I am probably not one of those people. But I did not ever meet Jeffrey Epstein. But he seems very straightforwardly, just a classic. The way he was able to charm people, the way he could step into these roles. I think he was teaching at Dalton, and then just kind of the way he would get himself into the academic crowd within Harvard and I think also MIT, right? He's sort of,
Yeah.
so he's playing a role, but he's doing it so well that he fools all these people. And the things that people would, in hindsight, say about him are just the same things that people say about, it's like you hear the same things over and over again. You hear the same things said about those people who were taken in by Elizabeth Holmes, is that they were like, it was as if he was under a spell. It was as if I was under a spell, is something you hear a lot. And so it's like they have this powerful charm that's it's overwhelming in that they overwhelm your better judgment or they overwhelm your like otherwise normally functioning capacity for rational thought. And they sort of overwhelm that with their charm. So when you look at, I think it was like James Mattis invested a bunch of money with Elizabeth Holmes and all these people were involved with her. And nobody really did their due diligence or they just sort of trusted her. And Jeffrey Epstein, I think it's still unclear where he got all of his money, but the guy Wexner, Les Wexner,
Yeah, Les Wexner.
who had, an enormous amount of money and somehow very quickly turned over management of it to Jeffrey Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
And so people wonder, like, why would he do that? That's insane. And then other people have commented about that relationship, like it was as if he was under Jeffrey's spell. Observers would say, I couldn't understand it. It was as if he was under his spell. And so somebody observing me and Mr. Fox could have possibly said the same thing about me. But it's a bit different because it wasn't all charm. I think Epstein used his charm and then was probably very, very, very crafty in getting another thing that people like him do and cults do also is to get you somehow compromised because then they've got you. So I think
some kind of usually sex related.
Yeah. And with Epstein, certainly, he was known to have cameras everywhere. And so if he got any of these people on camera doing something compromising and they're all very powerful people, then he's got them.
Yeah.
And I think he was also very smart to do that, to target people of both parties so that politically that he was able to maintain his power, like no matter, like nobody wanted him to be totally exposed because then a lot of people would be exposed.
By the way, that part, that's all kind of conspiracy, right?
Right. We don't know that.
So a lot of people believe that, and I tend to kind of naturally believe that because it makes sense. But it's also possible that straight up with charisma.
I mean, he did record people, and there were recordings. So I listened to an interview with a woman who, was a girl back then. Maybe she was 15 or 16 back then. And subsequently, years later, was able to see some of the video of. I think that's a verifiable thing that there were video cameras all over his house.
Yeah, but the degree to which it was used.
Right. We don't know that.
And to the degree of how many people were involved and so on. There's all kinds of conspiracies around the man.